Okay, hi, and welcome to the Crucible Socratic Seminar. Oh, I have an echo on my end. I hear me.
Just turn your volume down a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Because it's coming back through the recording.
Okay, how's that? Is that any better?
Oh yeah, I don't hear an echo.
Okay, that's good. All right, so when we talked about the Crucible, we need to talk about something called allegory. And so the first question is, allegory, what is it? And according to Webster, allegory is the expression by means of symbolic fictional figures and actions of truths or generalizations about human existence. That's kind of a mouthful. It's hard to know exactly what that means. And so I think what we'll do is go through and talk about a particular example of allegory, and maybe this will make it a little more clear. Previously we have, in the materials for the course, you have been introduced to Animal Farm as an allegory, and now I want to cover another allegory. This is actually a much older allegory. It's from the Middle Ages. No one knows who really wrote it. And no one knows if it was really written first in English or if it was a Flemish tale first. But it's an allegory. And just take a guess what it might be about. It's called Everyman. And the main character is named Everyman in this play. Take a guess what it might be about. You guys. Any ideas?
It's a trick question.
Yeah, it's about all of us. It's about every man. It's about all of us. So Everyman is a medieval morality play that is an allegory. What happened was, I'm going to cover this in a second, so I'll just go on reading. It is about one man named Everyman who is supposed to represent all of us in our journey through life. And as this is from the canon of Western literature, it is written from a Christian perspective. And morality plays like Everyman were acted for the illiterate population, like in the Middle Ages, who couldn't read the Bible or other religious books. So this drama attempted to instruct people on how to behave in order to avoid hell and to gain heaven. And so here's a list of characters from the play: God, death, Everyman, fellowship. What do you think fellowship means?
Like fellowship should be like together, like friendship, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Very good. Kindred. What does kindred mean?
Like family.
Family. That's right. And then there's cousin and goods. What do you think goods would be?
It depends on the way it's used. Like sometimes they say like goods as in something that you get, like goods, like not exciting.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like it's money, it's a house, it's shoes, material possessions, basically. And good deeds, we all know what good deeds are. And knowledge and confession. If you know anything about the Roman Catholic religion, you know about confession. And beauty, strength, discretion. What is discretion?
Keep something to yourself, kind of.
Yeah, it's being careful. And 5 wits, that really means the 5 senses. And then there's an angel and a doctor. And what you'll see in these characters is that there are some abstractions, like knowledge is an abstraction. It's not a concrete noun, it's an abstract noun. Because you really can't. Hello. Fellowship is a bond between your friends and comrades. Kindred is one's relations. Discretion is to be quiet about things. That's right. Good, Morgan. And Ashley, excellent. And we have some abstractions here. Like, for example, discretion is kind of an abstraction. And so what this morality play did was it took these concepts like fellowship and kindred and goods and good deeds, and it turned them into characters. And so basically, what happens is that every man encounters all these characters in the play. And that's why it's an allegory. So every man is the best surviving example of that kind of medieval drama, which is known as the morality play. The morality plays employed allegory to dramatize the moral struggle that Christianity envisions as present in every man or person. The qualities within him, good or bad, push and pull him one way or another, that is, in Christian terms, towards heaven or hell. The intent of the morality is overtly didactic, which means teaching. There is oftentimes a good deal of humor in medieval morality plays, and the chief humor in every man lies in the undue haste with which the hero's friends abandon him when he calls on them for help. So every man, the character, is stripped one by one of those apparent goods on which he had relied. First, he is deserted by his false friends, his casual companions, his kinsmen, and his wealth. Receiving some comfort from his enfeebled good deeds, he falls back on them and his other resources, his strength, his beauty, his intelligence, and his knowledge, qualities, when properly used, help to make an integrated man. These assist him through the crisis in which he must go to make up his book of accounts. But at the end, when he must go to the grave, all desert him except for his good deeds. So every character deserts him. When he did deeds. So the play makes the point that in the end, we can take along from this world nothing that we have received. We can only take what we have given. This is certainly a kind of paradox, isn't it? What's a paradox is a statement that is seemingly contradictory or opposed to common sense, yet perhaps is true. Yeah, I agree. Mrs. Campbell. So, moving on. So in every man, allegory appears in its most meticulously worked out form. Each actor has his allegorical significance defined by his name and behaves entirely within the limits of that definition. So in other words, characters like kindred don't behave like any other character, just kindred. The onlooker takes a good deal of intellectual satisfaction in watching the nice operation of the allegorical equations. On the other hand, one might object that allegory, when so neatly handled, sacrifices for a kind of mathematical regularity, the suggestiveness that is inherent in the far looser allegory of other allegorical works. Nevertheless, when it is well staged and well acted, every man, despite its uncompromising instructionalism, is a powerful drama. So the play was written near the end of the 15th century. It is probably a translation of the Flemish play, though it is not impossible that the Flemish play is the translation of the English every man, and the English every man, the original. And all this information was taken from Norton Anthology of English Literature, 5th edition, volume 1, page 346. Okay, so here's an excerpt from Every Man, and this is where death speaks to every man. And death says, "On thee thou must take a long journey. Therefore, thy book of count with thee thou bring." What he means by the book of count is the book of your life, which indicates your good deeds and your evil deeds, because you're going to be judged. For turn again, thou cannot by no way. You cannot turn around. And look, thou be sure of thy reckoning. And be sure there's going to be a reckoning. For before God thou shalt answer and show thy many bad deeds and good but a few, how thou hast spent thy life and in what wise, before the chief Lord of Paradise. Have ado that we were. For know thou well thou shalt make none attorney. So there will be no one else to speak for you but yourself. So death basically is summoning every man. It's every man's time to die, and he's got to make a reckoning of himself before the chief Lord of Paradise, which is God. And so here's one of every man's friends, fellowship. At first, fellowship says this to every man. He says, "My true friend, show me your mind. I will not forsake thee to my life's end in the way of good company. What does that mean? What did he just say? What did fellowship just say? My true friend, show me your mind. I will not forsake thee to my life's end in the way of good company.
That's kind of hard when I'm trying to think.
Yeah. Well, okay, look at this second line right here. I will not forsake thee to my life's end. What does that mean?
Like, he won't.
I'll never leave you. I'll never turn again.
Yeah.
In the way of good company. I'll always be here for you no matter what. For as long as I live. Okay? But then, every man tells fellowship this. He says, but after he hears that every man has been summoned by death, what does fellowship say? Fellowship says, now by God that all hath brought, if death were the messenger, or no man that is living today, I will not go that loath journey, not for the Father that begat me. So basically, fellowship forsakes every man and leaves. So this is an example of allegory because fellowship is this abstraction that actually becomes a character in the play, and then it just so happens that this character leaves every man to himself. Here's another one of every man's friends, cousin. At first cousin says to every man, yea, every man, and to us declare, if ye be disposed to go anywhither, for know you well, we will live and die together. So that's what cousin says to every man. We will live and die together. There's nothing that can separate us. But then, after cousin learns that death has summoned every man, cousin says, cousin every man, farewell now, for verily I will not go with you. Also of mine own and unready reckoning I have to account. Therefore I will make tarrying. Now God help thee, for now I go. So basically, later you're on your own. I'm not going there with you. When before he said, yeah, I'll go with you anywhere. So what's the point of this allegory? The point is that everything that we think we possess in this world is ultimately going to be separated from us, except, according to this play, our good deeds, which go with us to wherever we're going to go. Another friend of every man is good. This is what good says to every man about going on a journey with him. Good says, no, so God we speed, therefore farewell and have a good day. This is what good says, knowing that every man's going to die. Have a good day, right? And so this is kind of funny. There's a lot of humor in every man. It's kind of twisted humor, but nonetheless. So, what's the point about all this discussion about every man? I thought this was supposed to be about the Crucible, right? So the point is that allegory can be extremely blatant or simple, like it is in every man, or it can be more subtle in the Crucible. In every man, there are these designated characters who have these particular names, and the names. Hi, Jacqueline. How are you? Hi, Jacqueline. How are you?
Hello, fine.
Hi.
Hello, fine.
Welcome. And we're just talking about a work called Every Man and because of allegory. So the point is to be extremely blatant or simple, like it is in every man, or it can be more subtle as it is in the Crucible. Like in every man, the allegory basically takes these abstractions, which are these qualities in people, like goodness and fellowship, and it turns them into characters that are tangible, that are knowable by the audience. It turns these abstract nouns into concrete nouns, and that's what the allegory does. So looking at the second paragraph there, moreover, allegory can be about an abstract quality, like the goodness that causes us to do good deeds, or knowledge, as it is in every man. rather than about individual people as it is in the Crucible and even in Animal Farm, as you would have seen if you have read everything for the class. So in Animal Farm, basically what we have is we have an allegory where animals talk, and the pigs represent these Russian leaders like Trotsky and Lenin. Okay. All right. So moreover, there is a thematic correlative or similarity between Salem of 1692 and Washington, D.C. circa 1950. Circa is kind of a cool word. It just means about the time of. So that thematic correlative has to do with these three themes: fear, hysteria, and injustice. These themes serve to bolster or support Miller's allegory, though there have been critics who have said that Miller's comparison is a false one, as witches did not really exist, but communists do. So here's my first question. How are fear and injustice present in Salem of 1692 in the Crucible?
I think they're present because most of the accusations were lies. A lot of people became fearful of the people that were accused. I think fear is involved in the Crucible.
Great point. Yeah, it's true. I mean, the accusations were falsehoods, and so that created hysteria. And so that created hysteria, inherently injustice. Anyone else on that point?
I have to say, I totally disagree with those critics who said that, communism existed. I think the communism that was described in the 1950s still was, equal to how we would view witchcraft. I mean, even now, we've had some controversy just in this module that if people think this is about witchcraft, they don't want to read about it. When in fact, that's the reason why everybody was persecuted, that fear of witchcraft, and it was the fear of communism, even though, in my opinion, neither one existed. I mean, communism exists in the other countries, yes. And there are, totalitarian governments and whatnot, but the level to which McCarthy made the fear of communism so unreal, everybody was believing it. And so it's the fear of this unknown concept that is built up to be so bad, and you don't want any part of it. And that's that. So anytime you try and bring up the subject, I don't want to hear it. It's going to be bad. And that's what both Miller and what was going on at the time during the Salem witch trials. It was this power through fear that really controlled everything.
Great point. So one of the things I hear you saying, Mrs. Campbell, is witchcraft, the fear of witchcraft was just as real for the people in 1692 Salem as the fear of communism was for 1950s McCarthy-era people. Is that right?
Exactly.
McCarthy-era people. Is that right?
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah. But because they weren't in it wasn't in a religious base per se. The Puritans being very religious and that fear of hell and anything demonic created a whole lot of fear because it was the Cold War and because it was post World War II, and just we know what the communist leaders were like. That what they were able to use that fear, that it was a horrible experience. I don't think even post 9/11, I don't think our generation has felt the fear that the people of World War II era in America, what they felt. And so it's, to them, it was just as terrifying as the thought of, demonic possession or demonic control through a religious community.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's interesting. This is on a slightly different topic, but I don't think we felt the unity either that people have felt in World War II in America. Because if you might remember, people were actually turning in their metal goods to the government so that the government could make things like tanks and bombs and bullets and things that they had for the common good. And I don't know that we felt that kind of unity. And I don't know that we felt that kind of unity. Okay, so.
Right.
I think the second question has been answered. How are fear, hysteria, and injustice present in DC and McCarthy era? But maybe we can say a little bit more about that. Ashlyn, Jacqueline, or Morgan, do you have anything to say about that?
Ashlyn, Jacqueline, or Morgan, do you have anything to say about that?
I don't. You guys kind of covered it.
Yeah, okay.
You guys kind of covered it.
Okay, I just wanted to give you the opportunity. All right, let's look at the third question. And Mrs. Campbell actually hit on this, but there's a little more that I'd like to say about it. Is it a fair criticism of Miller's work that witches don't exist but communists do? Why or why not?
Why or why not?
I think one way to answer this question is to say this. Is to look at other allegories. If we look at Animal Farm, Animal Farm has these animals that talk. Okay. Well, have you ever met an animal that can talk?
Okay. Well, have you ever met an animal that can talk?
Oh, really?
No. I mean, a parrot.
Sure?
No?
Oh, a parrot. Okay. All right. Well, that just blew my theory out of the water then. No. Generally, I mean, we don't meet animals that can talk, right?
Generally, I mean, we don't meet animals
And
that can talk, right?
so they don't exist, much as witches don't exist.
They don't exist, much as
But
witches don't exist.
in Animal Farm, what does exist are communists.
What does exist
are the Russian czars.
The Russian czars.
In Miller's work, what does exist are communists.
In Miller's
So
work,
just
what does
because
exist are communists.
the thing that is being portrayed doesn't necessarily exist in what you might call concrete state doesn't mean you can't use it in allegory.
Concrete state doesn't mean you can't use it in
similarly, in Everyman, the abstraction is turned into a concrete thing. The abstraction, like knowledge, is turned into a character. Much in the same way that in Miller's work, the abstraction, which is witches, is turned into a concrete thing. Like communists. So I think if we look at this criticism from the perspective of allegory, what we can do is false criticism, because abstractions are turned into concrete things all the time in allegory. That's the purpose of allegory. And so maybe the critics who criticized Miller's work weren't thinking of it as an allegory. Does any of that make sense to you guys?
Does any of that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it does.
All right. So, moving on.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you guys. Can witch hunts happen today?
Here's a question for you guys.
What do you think?
Can witch hunts happen today? What do you think?
Well, let's look at this. Ask those who were falsely accused of being communists in the McCarthy era. What do you think they would say? Can witch hunts happen today?
What do you think they would say? Can witch hunts happen today?
Better yet, ask the survivors of the Holocaust.
Better yet,
can witch hunts happen today?
Of the Holocaust.
How about asking the Japanese Americans who were interned during World War II in places like Manzanar in the Owens Valley in California? Ask them, hey, can witch hunts happen today?
Ask them.
One of my relatives actually has a grandmother who just recently passed away. She was interned in Manzanar. She knows about this.
She was interned in Manzanar.
What do you think all these people might say when you ask them, hey, can witch hunts happen today?
What do you think all these people might say?
What do you think they would say?
Hey, can witch hunts happen today? What do you think they would say?
I think there are people today. It's still hard, especially if you don't know too much about. In fact, in your U.S. history, have you guys? How far have you gotten in U.S. history?
I'd have to look. I'd have to look again.
I'd have to look. I'd have to look again.
You don't
I'm
remember?
looking at this.
Well, I'm looking at this.
I think if we look today, though, of some of the things, who are the people in your sphere of observation? Which people are being sought after today and vilified in our culture today?
I noticed that a lot of policemen are considered as good people.
Not very good people.
Even
Right.
the president too. Some people are saying that with the president as well.
And it goes both directions.
Some people are saying that with the president as well.
Yeah. I'm probably showing my political self, but if you look at the Dreamers, the ones who were under DACA, the Dream Act, I forget what it stands for, but if anybody who is not an American citizen, America, there are groups that are hunting after them, so to speak. So it's kind of hard when we haven't experienced some of these horrible things that this country has done. This has not been the perfect country. And so, or even, looking at Germany, we see pictures of the Holocaust, but I don't think we could ever really understand the atrocities there. I think the closest you can come is if you go to the Getty Museum and go through their Holocaust exhibit. It's hard to understand how is it that people can do this to one
Well,
another.
you never really truly understand a lot of the things that people have gone through unless you've gone through it yourself. Like you refer to the Holocaust, and
Right.
we'll never truly understand that because we never went through it.
We'll never truly understand
My
that
mother went to
because
the
we've
museum
never
and she
went through
says
it.
that
Mm-hmm.
it's
My
crazy
mother went to the
going through
museum
it
and she
because
says that
even though
it's
you're
crazy
reading
going
about
through
it,
there
even though you're
because you
listening
don't,
to it, you'll never truly
even though
be
you're
able
reading
to
about it, even though
feel
you're listening to it, you'll
emotionally
never
and physically what
truly
they went through.
be able to feel
But
emotionally
the
and
sad part
physically what
about
they went
today
through.
is that anything can happen, honestly. I
But
mean,
the sad part
no
about
matter
today is
where
that
you are
anything can
in life,
happen,
anything can
honestly.
happen at
I
any
mean,
moment.
no matter where you are in life, anything can happen at any moment.
Yeah.
That's true. It just takes the right social and economic conditions for
That's true.
to trigger
It just takes the
things
right
that can
social and
happen
economic
to
conditions
groups
for
of people.
to trigger things that can happen to
Okay.
groups of people.
And Morgan,
Okay,
I like your
but-
response as well. The witch hunts today would be for the police force and some political leaders.
Good
Absolutely.
point, Morgan. I just saw that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good point.
So what does
Morgan, I
Arthur
just
Miller
saw that.
say about why he wrote the play? He
Okay.
says,
So what does
at
Arthur
first I
Miller say
rejected
about
the
why he
idea
wrote
of
the
a
play?
play on
He
the
says,
subject.
At
But
first I
gradually, over
rejected the
weeks,
idea of
a
a
living
play on the
connection
subject.
between myself and Salem, and
Gradually, over
between
weeks,
Salem and
a living
Washington,
connection between myself
was
and
made in my
Salem and
mind.
between
For
Salem
whatever
and
else they might
Washington
be, I
was
saw that the
made in my
hearings in
mind. For
Washington
whatever
were
else they might
profoundly
be,
and
I
even
saw that the hearings
avowedly
in Washington were
ritualistic.
profoundly
The main
and even
point of the hearing,
avowedly
precisely as in
ritualistic.
the 17th
The
century
main
Salem,
point of the hearing,
was that the
precisely as
accused
in the
make
17th
public
century
confession,
Salem, was
damn
that the
his confederates
accused
as
make
well as
public
his devil
confession,
master, and
damn his
guarantee his
confederates as
sterling
well
new
as his
allegiance
devil
by breaking
master, and
disgusting old
guarantee his
vows,
sterling new allegiance
whereupon
by
he was let
breaking
loose to
disgusting
rejoin a
old
society of
vows,
extremely
whereupon
decent
he
people.
was let loose to
In other
rejoin a
words,
society of
the same
extremely
spiritual
decent
nugget
people.
lay folded within
In other
both
words, the
procedures,
same
an act
spiritual
of
nugget lay
contrition
folded within
done
both
not in
procedures,
solemn
an act of
privacy,
contrition
but out
done
in the
not in
public
solemn
air.
privacy, but out in
So
the public
that's
air.
why Miller says he wrote the work.
That's
Do you guys want
why
to say anything about that?
Miller says he wrote the work. Do you guys want to say anything about that?
Okay. What's the point of the Crucible? Consider this.
Okay.
A climactic scene
What's
in the
the point of the
Crucible comes when
Crucible?
John
Consider
Proctor,
this.
on
A
the point of
climactic scene in
trading
the
his
Crucible
integrity
comes
for
when
his
John
life,
Proctor, on
finally
the point of
refuses to pay
trading
the
his
price,
integrity for his
which is
life,
to offer the names
finally
of
refuses
others
to
to
pay
buy
the
his
price,
life.
which is to offer the
I
names
like
of
not
others to buy
to
his
spoil their
life.
names. I speak my own
I
sins.
like not
I
to
cannot
spoil
judge
their
another.
names. I speak
I have
my
no
own
tongue
sins.
for it.
I cannot
He
judge
thus
another.
recovers his own name
I have no
by
tongue for
refusing
it.
to name
He
others.
thus recovers his own
Now
name
do I think
by
I see
refusing
some
to
shred
name
of goodness
others.
in John Proctor, he
Now
says,
do I think I
from the
see some shred of
introduction
goodness in John
by Christopher
Proctor,
Bigsby
he
to Arthur
says.
Miller's The
From the
Crucible, Penguin
introduction
Classics,
by
1995.
Christopher Bigsby to
So-
Arthur Miller's The Crucible, Penguin Classics,
So,
1995.
based on this, what do you
So-
think the Crucible might be?
So, based
What
on
is-
this, what do you
What
think
is the real
Crucible might
Crucible
be?
in the work? Well, we'll talk
What
about
is-
that in a minute.
What is the real Crucible in the
Okay,
work? Well, we'll talk
Miller
about that in a
and the
minute.
House Un-American Activities Committee.
Okay.
Miller
and
himself
the
was
House
called before the
Un-American
committee.
Activities Committee.
His reply
Miller
when asked
himself
to
was
betray
called
others
before
with
the
a
committee.
virtual paragraph
His
paraphrase
reply when asked to betray others with a virtual
was a
paraphrase
paraphrase, not a paragraph.
was a
Let me fix that really fast.
paraphrase, not a paragraph.
It's a
Let me
virtual
fix that really
paraphrase
fast.
of the one offered by Proctor. He
It's a
announced,
virtual
I am trying
paraphrase of the
to,
one
and I
offered by
will
Proctor.
protect
He
my
announced,
sense
I
of
am
myself.
trying to, and I will
I could not
protect
use
my
the name of
sense
another
of
person and
myself.
bring trouble on him.
I could not
Asked
use
to
the name
comment
of
on
another
this
person
30
and
years
bring
later, he
trouble on
replied,
him. Asked
well,
to
there's only
comment
one
on
thing to
this
say to
30
them.
years later, he replied,
You don't have much choice.
well, there's only
From
one
the
thing to
introduction
say to them.
by Christopher
You
Bigsby
don't
to
have
Arthur
much
Miller's The
choice.
Crucible.
From the
So,
introduction by Christopher Bigsby to Arthur
do you
Miller's
see a
The
similarity
Crucible.
between the way that
So,
Proctor answers these,
do you
these
see a similarity
judges like
between the way that
Danforth
Proctor
and others,
answers these,
and the way that
these
Miller
judges like
answers
Danforth
the
and
House
others,
Un-American Activities
and
Committee?
the way that
Is there a similarity there?
answers the House Un-American Activities Committee? Is there a similarity there?
I kind of see that, yeah.
Yeah, they basically say the same thing,
kind
don't
of see
they?
that, yeah.
Proctor says,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what
They
I've done
basically say
wrong,
the
but I'm
same
not
thing,
going to
don't
rat
they?
anybody else
Proctor
out.
says, I'll tell
Okay,
you what I've
because
done wrong,
he
but I'm
wants
not
to
going to rat
protect
anybody
his
else out.
integrity. He doesn't
Okay,
want to be
because
someone
he wants to protect his
who
integrity.
causes harm to
He
another
doesn't want to
person.
be someone
He'll admit what he's
who
done,
causes
but he doesn't
harm
want to
to
bring
another
harm on
person.
anybody else.
He'll admit
And
what he's
this
done,
is kind of
but he
like
doesn't
what
want to
Miller
bring harm on
says, where
anybody
Miller
else.
says,
And
I'm
this
not
is
going
kind of
to
like
bring
what
trouble
Miller
on
says, where
anybody
Miller
else.
says,
I'm not
I'm
going to
not
tell you
going
any
to
names
bring
that I
trouble
may
on
have.
anybody else.
Okay?
I'm
So
not going to tell you any names
there's a
that I may
similarity
have.
there, and this
Okay?
furthers the
So,
allegory
there's a
in
similarity there,
the work,
and
I
this
think, of the
furthers
Crucible.
allegory
Did you want to say anything here,
in,
Mrs.
the
Campbell?
work, I think, of the Crucible. Did you want to say anything here, Mrs. Campbell?
I was thinking about, from the Bible where it says, "Judge not, lest you be judged," and this is coming from that very principle, where for some reason, the part of humanity, a bad part of humanity, is the willingness to put somebody else in front of you who may be worse or who you think may be worse. But in fact, each one of us is imperfect. Each one of us has got problems, and as long as there are people who believe they are perfect, they are the ones who are going to come after everybody. But in fact, that is the worst part about them, is that they're judging other people. And so I think this, like, it goes back even beyond the everyman period, where it's this part of human nature that is willing to throw other people under the bus, where the part that makes you honorable is the part that says, I am imperfect and I am not going to point out the sins of other people because there's no way I can be judged for
Great
it.
point. Okay. What is
Great
the
point.
definition of the word crucible?
Okay.
According to dictionary.com,
what
the
is
crucible
the definition of the word
is
crucible?
a container of
According to
metal
dictionary.com,
or refractory
the crucible
material
is
employed for
A
heating
container of metal
substances.
or refractory
high
material
temperatures.
employed for heating
Okay,
substances.
in metallurgy, it's a hollow
high
area at the bottom of a
temperatures.
furnace in which the
In
metal
metallurgy,
collects,
it's a hollow
or a
area at the
severe
bottom
searching
of a furnace
test
in
or
which the metal
trial.
collects.
Would someone like to
or
tell
a
us
severe searching test
why they
or
think
trial.
that the
Would someone like
title
to tell
of the
us,
play is The Crucible?
why they
Using
think
some
that
evidence from the play?
title of the play is The Crucible? Using some evidence from the play?
I think it's the third definition because it's more, if you actually read the play and you understand what they're trying to say, they are. It's like a searching test and a trial. That's literally what the Crucible is.
It's like a searching test and a trial.
Because it's
literally what the Crucible is.
For Proctor, he is trying to protect him. Like you were saying, he's trying to protect his integrity and everything.
Like you were saying, he's trying
But
to
for others,
protect
it's
his
a trial
integrity and
of
everything.
who
But for
they can trust
others,
or who they thought they could trust.
it's a trial of
And a lot of people there,
who they can trust or who they thought
it's
they
more
could
of a test for them because they don't know whether
And a lot
they
of
should
people there,
protect themselves by,
it's more of a test for them
you know,
because they don't know
saying all
whether
these other
they should
names
protect themselves
or
by,
honor
you know,
themselves by
saying all these other names,
keeping true to themselves and not
or
trying to
honor
bring anybody else
themselves by
pain and suffering.
keeping true to themselves and not trying
Great
to
point.
bring anybody
Anyone
else pain and
else?
suffering.
Great point. Anyone else?
You know, while you were talking, I just thought of something that was kind of interesting, and what I thought of was just as the neighbors,
that was kind of interesting, and what I thought
the
of was just
townspeople
as
desert one another in terms of charity within the Crucible.
desert one
In
another
every man,
in terms of charity within the
you know, the
Crucible.
various friends of every man desert him. Kind of interesting comparison.
Friends of every man desert him.
Okay, so let's go on.
Comparison, I think.
Oh, more.
I like
Okay,
Morgan's.
so let's go on.
Let's take a look at Morgan's response. I feel like the real crucible in the story is the entire town's struggle to not turn on each other and descend into chaos because of the fact that all the cast seems to face their own mini trial to test their morality. That is so true. And as they get closer together at the bottom, and that's what a crucible does. That's where the melting starts to really occur.
Excellent, Morgan.
That's a really good response to
Sorry,
that.
I didn't see that right away. I thought there's gonna be another post.
Sorry, I didn't see
separate
that
post,
right away.
but I see that's been added on to
there's going
what's
to be
already
another
written there.
post.
Yeah, that's a great
But I
point.
see that's been added on to what's already been written there.
What I hear you saying,
that's a great
Morgan,
point.
is basically that
what I hear you
this
saying,
is kind of like a work
Morgan,
that
is
operates on many
basically
different levels, because on one level
this
it's
is
an
kind of
allegory,
like
and
a
another
work
level
that operates
it's
on
about
many
the
different
crucible
levels,
or
because
test
on one
for
level
the
it's an
entire
allegory, on another
town,
level
and on
it's
another
about
level
the
it's
crucible
about
or
the
test for the
individual
entire
crucible
town.
or test
And
for
on
John
another level,
Proctor.
it's
Is that right?
about the individual crucible or test for John Proctor. Is
Awesome.
that right?
I learned so much by
Awesome.
participating in these Socratic seminars. This is great.
I learned so much by participating in these Socratic
All right,
seminars.
some posts from discussion boards. And here's a question.
All right, some posts
can a
from
witch
discussion
hunt still
boards.
happen today?
And
the
question.
student answer
Can a witch
is
hunt
yes,
still happen
I believe
today?
a witch hunt is still
And the
possible in
student
this current
answer
age,
is yes,
especially
I
with
believe a witch hunt
politics. I
is
believe this
still
answer
possible in
actually
this
came from
current
somebody
age,
who's present here in the
especially
seminar
with
now.
politics. I believe this
And,
answer actually came from somebody who's present
Does
here
this
in the
student
seminar now.
understand the allegorical
And,
significance of the term witch hunt?
Does this student understand
Yeah,
the
what do we
allegorical
think?
significance of the term
That
witch
question.
hunt?
Does this student
Yeah,
understand the
what do we
allegorical
think?
significance of the
That
term witch
question.
hunt?
Does this student understand the allegorical significance of the term witch hunt?
And I think that
What's the evidence here? Right? I would like to know because the way to know that is to know from an example of
good
what
point.
the witch hunt would be. So,
Good point.
it's hard for me to
my answer to that question
that
would be
outright.
yes. This student definitely does understand
My answer to that
what a
question
witch
would be
hunt
yes. The student
is
definitely
in
does
terms
understand,
of the
what
witch hunt
a
that
witch
took place in
is
Salem as
in
compared to
terms
the witch hunt
of
that took place
the
in
witch hunt
Washington
that
in the
took place
1950s.
in Salem as
And I
compared
think
to
that
the
was the
witch hunt that
context
took
of
place
the
in
question
Washington in the
when it was posted on the
1950s.
board.
And I think that was the context of the question
Here's
when
another
it was
question.
posted on the
What
board.
was Molly Kazan's objection to the parallel between the McCarthy
Here's another
hearings in
question.
Salem?
What was Molly
And the student
Kazan's
answer was
objection to the
Molly
parallel
Kazan's
between the
objection
McCarthy
to
hearings
Miller's
in
parallel
Salem?
between McCarthy
And
hearings
the
in
student
Salem is
answer
that
was
witches
Molly
are not
Kazan's
real and
objection to
communists
Miller's
are.
parallel between McCarthy
And
hearings
so
in Salem is that
certainly
witches
the
are not
student read the
real and
materials
communists are.
prior to
And so certainly
to
the student
answering the
read the
question.
materials prior to.
And my question is Molly
prior
Kazan's
to answering the
objection a
question.
valid one? Is she looking at things too literally?
And my question is
And
Molly Kazan's objection
as we
a
talked
valid
about
one? Is she
before,
looking at things
you
too
know,
literally?
if we look at this
And
at this
as we
criticism
talked
in
about
terms
before,
of allegory, then
you
maybe
know,
perhaps
if we look
she
at
is
this,
looking at things too
at
literally.
this criticism
Does
in
that make
terms
sense
of
to you guys?
allegory, then maybe perhaps she is looking at things too literally. Does that make sense to you guys?
I think too that again, it's Molly is not picking up the concept here. Actually, the witchcraft or communism is not really at the forefront. At the forefront, it is the power that one holds over the other. So I think she's thinking things too literally and
Right.
not
I
really
was
seeing
thinking
the
about
deep
this very thing
problem here.
yesterday, and I was thinking about what the real
Right.
subject
I
matter
was thinking about this very
of
thing yesterday, and I was thinking
these
about what the real subject matter
of the
of
1692 witch
these
hunts and
of
the McCarthy
of the
hearings was. And
1692
I was
witch
thinking
hunts
that the
and the
vehicle
McCarthy hearings
for
was.
Miller
And I was
is
thinking
the witch
that the
hunts, but the
vehicle
real subject matter, like you
for
said,
Miller
is
the
like the
witch
power,
hunts,
the
but the real
fear,
subject
the
matter, like you
hysteria,
said,
the injustice.
is like the power,
That's what
the
the play is
fear,
really
the
about. I mean, when it
hysteria,
comes down to
the
it,
injustice.
that was my thought. What do you
That's what
think
the
about
play
that,
is
Mrs.
really
Campbell?
about. And when it comes down to it, that was my thought. What do you think about that, Mrs. Campbell?
Definitely. I mean that's what gets so frustrating when we have people who say, I'm not going to read that because it's about witchcraft, and you have to say, it's not about witchcraft. Honestly, it's not. Tituba, she does some things that probably make a few people uncomfortable, but it's this play is more religious.
There's a bigger
I think,
picture
than
to it.
people seem to give it credit for. Because
There's a bigger picture to it.
Yeah. So I get frustrated when that happens because that witchcraft blinder gets put on and nobody can take it off. And I know the same criticism happened with the Harry Potter books. And I was among the crowd in the beginning, but then later on I thought, well, enough of my students read this that I'm missing some literary allusions that I better pick up on. And once I read the book, okay, witchcraft is I don't want to be a part of it, but at the same time, it's a fantasy. This is a hero's journey. The witchcraft is not the primary message here. There's other things that are the primary message, and so that's
Great.
Miller's point.
Okay. Here's some more posts from the boards. In the end, do you think John Proctor is heroic or not?
Here's some more posts from the
answer.
boards.
Yes,
In the
because
end, do
Proctor
you
does
think
the right
John
thing at the
Proctor
end
is
by
heroic
telling
or
the
not?
truth.
Here's a student answer.
Okay,
Yes, because
so that's
Proctor does the right thing at the end by telling the truth.
Is that all there is to heroism, though? Is there more?
That's a great answer.
What? Also, when Miller was questioned by the House Un-American Activities Committee, what did he say?
Also, when
Was
Miller
he
was
heroic?
questioned
If
by the
so,
House Un-American
how?
Activities
If
Committee,
not,
what did
why
he
not?
say?
So, is telling
Was
the
he
truth
heroic?
all
If
there is
so,
to heroism in the case
how?
of John
If not,
Proctor,
why
or is
not?
there
So,
something more?
Is telling the truth all there is to heroism in the case
I
of
think
John
there's something
Proctor, or
more
is
to
there
him.
something more?
Like,
What would
I
that
think
be?
there's something more to him.
well, because not only is he telling the truth,
What would that be?
but
Well,
he's also
not only is
giving.
he telling the truth,
I don't know how to
but
explain this. He's kind of
he's
sacrificing himself
also
in order
giving.
to, in order to.
I don't know how to explain this.
Well, he's honoring
He's kind of
himself. And he's
sacrificing
honoring
himself
his
in order
his
to.
beliefs and everything. He's
He's
never
honoring
like he
himself.
was
He's
never
honoring
going to really
his beliefs
risk
and
anybody
everything.
else's
He's
life.
never like he was never going
He didn't
to
want to put anybody
really
else through something
risk
horrible.
anybody else's life. He didn't want to put anybody else
Great point.
through something horrible.
So I think back
Great
to every
point.
man. One of the qualities is
You
discretion.
know, so I think back to every
Do you
man,
think
one of
that
the
John Proctor uses
one of the qualities
discretion
is
when he
discretion.
gives his answer?
Do you think that John
I mean,
Proctor
does he
uses
tell the whole
discretion
truth blindly?
when he gives his answer?
Or does he say what he has
does
to
he
say
tell
with
the whole
discretion?
truth blindly?
He is pretty discreet about what he
Or
about
does he
everything that
say
he
what
does.
he has to
Honestly,
say
he's
with
very
discretion?
he's
He
kind
is
of
pretty
on
discreet
the
about
low
what he
when it comes to
about
what he
everything
does.
that he does. Honestly, he's
Yeah.
he's kind of
Good point.
on the low when it comes to what he does.
Yeah. Good point.
I like it because who really needs to know his sin? Who needs to be apologized to in all of this? Really, the only people he has dishonored is his wife and God, and there's really no reason for anybody else to know any of his business. And I think that's a Miller thing right there. Is that when you hurt somebody, it should not be the business of anybody else who has not been affected by that. It just needs to be held, between the people who have been injured.
Great point. And that's Proctor's point, isn't it? When he basically says, when he recants in the end, he says, he tears up his testimony. He says, I will not give a public testimony.
He says, he tears up his testimony. He says,
so his integrity, his honor, his everything is at stake, and he stands by what he knows is the right thing.
His everything is at stake.
So is that all that's at stake in the Crucible? What's really at stake in the Crucible?
So
the student answer is, I believe the main things at stake in the towns are the townspeople integrity in their lives. This is because if they lie and accuse someone else to stay alive, there goes the integrity of that individual. Then if they don't lie and are honest, if the court still doesn't believe them and they don't admit to anything, death is still the most likely outcome, especially during these trials.
Death is still the
is that all that's at stake in the Crucible? What else could be at stake? How about the very existence of Salem itself?
Is that all that's at stake in the Crucible? What else could be at stake
in the Crucible in any way? What do you think?
Salem itself.
If a riot was to happen, that entire town could have gone down, and it wouldn't have been existing today.
If a riot was to happen, that entire town could have gone down,
and who knows how far that was away from happening, right? Because of the hysteria.
Yeah, great point. And who knows how far that was away from happening, right? Because of the hysteria.
Okay, just one more student post. How does the tragic action in the Crucible affect the community, especially in the film version? Here's a student response.
How does the tragic action in the Crucible affect the community,
the tragic
especially
action
in
even the actual film shows the town is now slow-moving, as if what has happened during the trials is unbelievable. In the movie, after they are hanged, Proctor and the other main characters, the movie seems to take a quiet turn. No screaming, no more accusations. It just goes back to a normal day, or at least the new normal.
No more accusations.
Wow.
It just goes back to a normal day, or at least the new normal.
Do you think that there's something kind of eerie about that?
And do you think that there's something kind of eerie about that?
I've watched the movie and I've seen that they accuse the people that they kind of wanted revenge on, in a way.
I've watched the movie and I've seen that they accuse the people that they kind of wanted
so I believe after
revenge
those
on,
people were
in a way,
accused and they were
or
gone,
some type of
people were
they wanted something from them,
in a way satisfied.
So I believe after those people were accused and they were gone, people were
that's
in
a
a way
great point.
satisfied.
And I made a note here. It says this is a great point in terms of what both you said and the student response here on the board, because in tragedy, order is usually reestablished, often at the price of people's lives.
Because as in tragedy, order is
Do you want to say anything here, Mrs. Campbell?
often at the price of people's lives. Did you want to say anything here, Mrs. Campbell?
Okay.
I haven't watched the movie. I tried watching the movie. It was terrible. The first 5 minutes, I'm like, why am I watching this? I think what bothered me is that they did make the witchcraft a character. Winona Ryder's always been crazy, but I think that this really comes down to, she's revengeful. Abigail is just horrible. She's a horrible young person, and I've seen young people like that, and I know what goes on in their head, and I don't think they need to exaggerate anything more, because I really truly believe that this is a human frailty of this, manipulating the system to get revenge on somebody, or just to, the whole,
Great point.
If I don't get to have it.
Okay, well, thank you. And because in the interest of time, I'm going to skip a couple of these slides, and I'm going to go straight to the essay.
Thank you. And
choose one of these topics to write on. This is the essay prompt, or the essay prompts that you can choose from. Discuss how the Crucible is a work of allegory using the witch hunt trials of Salem of 1692 as a way to really discuss the 20th century American McCarthy hearings and the House Un-American Activities Committee, who even questioned Miller himself. Okay, so after the Socratic seminar, do you think that you'll be armed and able to actually approach that essay topic? Do you feel good about it?
Do you think that you'll be armed
I feel like I understand a lot better
actually
after doing
approach
this.
that essay topic?
Okay, great. great.
You feel good about it?
And here is the
I feel like I
second
understand it a lot better
prompt
after doing
that you
this.
can choose
Okay,
to write
great.
on if you don't want to write on the first one.
Here is the
Arthur
second,
Miller in his play The Crucible
prompt
meant to
that you
show
can
a human
choose,
flaw that
to write
breaks
on
the
if you don't
social
want to write on the
contract
first
that
one.
binds a community
Arthur
together
Miller in his play The
as love
Crucible
and
meant
mutual
to show a human
respect
flaw
bind
that breaks the
individuals.
social contract
By
that
comparing the
binds
Salem
community
witch
together
trials
as
with the
love and
McCarthyism of the
mutual respect
1950s,
bind
he
individuals.
tries to warn his
By
audience of
comparing the
humanity's
Salem witch
tendency to break
trials
with
with the
charity
McCarthyism
and
of the
how quickly this can
1950s,
spiral out
he
of
tries to
control.
warn his audience
In a
of
literary
humanity's
analysis
tendency to
essay,
break with charity
compare
and how
some current
quickly this
event
can
that
spiral
reminds you of
out
the
of
same
control.
human frailties
In a
that
literary
have caused
analysis
trauma in a
essay,
community such as what
compare
happened
some
in the
current
days of
event that reminds you
McCarthyism.
of the same
Be
human
sure to address
frailties
who or
that have
what is the
caused trauma in a
Danforth in a
community
current
such as
event
what happened
and
in the
what
days
caused
of
hysteria to
McCarthyism.
spread as it did
Be
in
sure
the
to
Crucible,
address who or
Salem,
what is the Danforth in
Massachusetts.
the current event and what
Really good.
caused hysteria
Really good
to
prompt.
spread as it did in the Crucible,
So, and I
Salem,
didn't write it, so I can say that.
Massachusetts.
Mrs. Campbell
Really good.
actually wrote that
Really good
prompt,
prompt.
and it's excellent.
And I didn't write it, so I can say that.
Let's see.
Mrs. Campbell actually
So,
wrote
any
that
questions about that prompt?
Excellent. So, let's see. So, any questions about that prompt?
No questions? Okay. All right. Yes.
No questions? Okay.
I want to
All
make
right.
a comment on 2.3.2
Yes.
because I've already had some submissions. When you are gathering the evidence to support your claim, we want to see the evidence. What do you plan on comparing? And so, it's not just enough to say, I plan on doing this one, then I'll basically say this. This is the opportunity for you to brainstorm, pull together those resources so that Mr. Short and I can make sure that they are valid and that they're really doing what it is that you want them to do. So remember that this is your analysis of the play and applying what the play has said to your lives today. So just a
Great.
note from me to make sure in that.
Okay.
2.3.2 you
Whichever
take the
essay
time
you
to gather that
choose,
evidence.
there should be a well-developed introductory
Great.
paragraph that introduces
Okay.
the issue that you will
Whichever essay you
discuss.
choose,
Please do
there
not
should
use
be
any
a well-developed
quotations in the
introductory
introductory
paragraph
paragraph. There's no need
that
to do
introduces
that.
the issue that
There
you will
should be at least
discuss.
2 strong body
Please do not
paragraphs
use
in
any
which some quoted
quotations in the
materials from
introductory
all 3 of the
paragraph. There's no need to
sources,
do that.
the Crucible,
There should be at least 2
the
strong
excerpts
body
taken from the
paragraphs in which
introduction to
some
the
quoted
Crucible,
materials from
and
all
the
3 of
article
the
from page
sources.
1095 in your
Crucible,
text are used.
The excerpts
Remember,
taken
this
from the
kind of essay
introduction
is
to the
called a
Crucible
synthesis essay,
and the
so you're going
article
to
from
be
page
using a lot of different
1095 in your
sources in your
text are
essay.
used.
Thus, you
Remember,
will need
this
to write a
kind of
works
essay is
cited
called a
page.
synthesis essay, so you're going
And
to be
for my
using a
class,
lot of
I
different
posted
sources
an
in your
MLA
essay.
link
Thus, you
to,
will
or a
need to
link
write
to
a
an
works cited
MLA
page.
sample paper in
And for my
2.3.3
class, I posted an
for you to
MLA
see.
link to, or a link
If you
to
have
an
any questions about
MLA
the
sample
format,
paper
did
in
you want to say anything about that, Mrs.
2.3.3
Campbell?
for you to see. If you have any questions about the format, did you want to say anything about that, Mrs. Campbell?
It's in the resources section, how to set up MLA. Make sure that when you do look at that, well, actually setting up the paper for MLA is not as critical as the works cited. The works cited has changed, but I believe that the formatting has not. So if we're just talking about the formatting of the essay, and unless you are using it, like for example, if you're using the second one and you're using evidence from outside sources, you do need to add the works cited page. So just
Okay,
ask
great.
your
And then
teacher
finally,
about,
I'm going to try to
how
squeeze
to
this
set that up
in
if you don't know.
before time is up. We have about 2
Okay,
minutes.
great. And
The
then
conclusion
finally,
paragraph.
I'm going to try to squeeze this in.
Finally, for the conclusion
before time
paragraph,
is
it
up.
would
We
be
have about
great
2
if you could
minutes.
begin it
The
with a
conclusion
universal
paragraph.
reflective statement. This is
Finally,
a
for the
statement that
conclusion
uses a word
paragraph,
like
it would be
we
great if you
to
could
begin the
begin it
sentence and
with
then
a universal
continue with
reflective
all
statement.
should.
This is a
So we all
statement that
should.
uses a word
And
like
then
we
finishes with the
to begin the
reflective thought on
sentence
what
and
you
then
have learned during your
continue
study
with
of this
all
material.
should.
For example,
So we all should.
if I were writing
And
about
then
the
finishes with
Holocaust,
the
I might
reflective
begin my
thought on what you
conclusion
have learned
paragraph with
during your
something
study of
like,
this material. For
we should
example,
all be more
if I were writing
aware
about the
of the
Holocaust, I
fact
might
that
begin
certain
my
economic
conclusion
and social
paragraph with
conditions
something like,
can bring about the
we
rise of
should all be
dictators who
more
may use their
aware
power and the
of the
unquestioning
fact
will
that
of the
certain
populace to
economic and
bring
social
about a hell on
conditions
earth
can bring about
for
the
people
rise
of a
of
particular
dictators who may
creed
use
or
their
race
power
or
and the
nationality.
unquestioning will of the populace
So
to bring about a hell
that's
on earth
like maybe a
for
different
people
way
of
to write a
particular
conclusion
creed or
paragraph than you're
race or
used to,
nationality.
but I think it
So
will make it more interesting for
that's
you
like
if you
maybe a
could
different way
use a
to write a
universal
conclusion
reflection like
paragraph
that.
than you're used to.
And so this is not the
But
only
I think
time you'll
it
be
will
able
make
to
it more
view
interesting
this. You
for
can
you
actually
if you
go
could
to
use a
the
universal
recorded
reflection like
version of
that.
this
And so
and
this is
then
not
go
the only
to
time
this
you'll be able to
page
view
or
this. You
this
can
point in the recording and pause it and see this page, see this example, and then you can write your own. And then you can finish the paragraph with about 3 more interesting sentences. And that keeps you from having just to, restate the main point. You can actually say something a little more meaningful than that. And kind of polish the conclusion paragraph a little bit if you'd like to. Did you want to say anything about that, Mrs. Campbell?
And kind of polish the conclusion paragraph a little bit if you'd like to. Did you want to say anything about that, Mrs. Campbell?
No, I think that covers it pretty well. Yeah. So what I call this type of conclusion is the call to action, and so it kind of gives your reader
exactly.
Here's
and here's the next slide.
And
the next slide is the end.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I just wanted to thank everyone for participating. Morgan and Ashlyn and Jacqueline, thank you all for your participation. Thank you, Mrs. Campbell, for everything.
Morgan
and do you have any final questions,
thank you all for your participation. Thank you, Mrs. Campbell, for everything.
When is this essay
do you have any final questions, anyone?
No, that's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head. Do you, Mrs. Campbell?
When is this essay due?
No, that's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head. Do you, Mrs. Campbell?
I think since this is Friday, my guess is you get 2 days to do it. So I think the first draft would be Tuesday, and then the peer revisions will get assigned on Wednesday. So you do have the weekend for this if you want to use it, but you always get 2 school days to write it. So I don't have my book in front of me, but my guess is Wednesday. But just check your pacing guide on the front. I will be reposting those a little later today. I'm sure Mr. Short will as well.
Okay, great. Well, I hope we've all learned a little bit something more about allegory and taking a look at a couple of different works. So thanks so much again, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Not today, because you've already met your obligation for today, but the next Socratic seminar.
And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Not today, because you've already met your obligation for today, but the next Socratic.